Tragedy in New Orleans. The F-grade president stoops even lower. The sham lawfare case against Trump continues. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America from the Hyatt Zilara Resort in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, instead of our usual Claremont Management Group studios in the historic Houston Heights, Houston, Texas, USA. As we end this first full week of January, the country is facing a very mixed bag. Donald J. Trump has been certified as the 47th president of the United States. That's a recovery only done once in American history. There are many rejoicing in what is viewed as a return to American values. At the same time, a horrific event in the French Quarter in New Orleans on New Year's morning has reminded all of us of how dangerous the entire world is at this time, and that this danger is not just overseas. While not at the level of 9/11, this is still a major tragedy, and we must work at all levels to make sure that there is not a repeat. New Orleans condolences and supporting rightful anger. I extend my heartfelt sympathy to each survivor of the deceased and wish a speedy recovery to the many who are injured. I can only imagine the hurt and loss you feel, as I did have a brother who was murdered, and the police in that city did not bother to even investigate his death. The terrorist attack on New Year's Day was an act of extreme cowardice. Only a coward takes a vehicle and runs down innocent civilians. I note that he had an Islamic name, but no idea how that relates to his display of an ISIS flag. That is a sign of truly the scum of the earth, and also the models for cowardice and anti-human civilization. I do not mention this murderer's name. My regular listeners know that I advocate not using names of killers, as it may stimulate others to commit senseless acts like this against others. Who, other than the murderer, is responsible? I hold the local law enforcement authorities responsible, as this is the first level. They were changing out the barricades on Bourbon Street that might have stopped this vehicle. Why was this project not completed before this popular night of revelry? These are also the same local authorities who failed their community when Katrina struck, and the state itself certified 971 dead. Now, that was not Galveston in 1900. That was in this century. The mayor and the governor tried to blame George W. Bush, then the president, but thinking Americans know that this type of preparation begins at the local level. This cowardly act was planned over time. Why did the FBI under Chris Wray not stop before this happened? Note that there was no free pass for President Trump on this yet another failed appointment during his first term. Of course, the FBI has been destroyed over time by a drive to ultimate wokeness. Their agents are chasing those who oppose abortion and parents concerned about their children's education, instead of protecting America and Americans. With the tie into ISIS, there are international implications. What happened to the CIA and the rest of the alphabet agencies that are supposed to be the best in the world? Right, more overpriced operations with overpaid bureaucrats and continued failures that require that we compare this terrorist attack to 9/11, the first World Trade Center bombing, and Oklahoma City. Enough! Time to fire people and reorient our entire government. We spend the most of any country. Why don't we have the best? Same questions for our military that cares more about being woke and DEI than killing our enemies. The New Orleans terrorist was a vet, and the Las Vegas explosion was by an active Army member. What on earth is happening to our military? And I say this as the proud son of a dad who served honorably in the U.S. Navy for over 28 years. Deterrence comes from having the best military in the world. Our so-called experts say we are still there, but rapidly fading versus our enemies. Why are we falling behind with nearly $1 trillion a year spent on it? And that does not include billions in healthcare and pensions that have not been funded for the vets. One clue is wasting trillions in Iraq and Afghanistan. No wonder the morale is bad, except I am told, of all things, in the Marines. Let's ponder that. Trump election certified. Yes, the VP is the president of the Senate and therefore Kamala Harris was obligated to certify her loss to President Trump. At least she did not mess that up or cackle. Also confirmed was Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House with only a 3-vote margin. This was far too close and underscores the fact that Trump does not have nearly the mandate required on the legislative front. While he has a majority in both houses, only a few defections can kill promising bills. The Senate requires 60 votes for major new legislation. It is likely that Trump, who appointed 3 new SCOTUS judges in his first term, could name 3 more in the next 4 years. We'll see how that goes. There's been a lot of publicity about Trump's early nominations to his cabinet. Let's see how many get confirmed, and equally important, how quickly I am on record marking down Trump's grades for his first term due to his poor appointments in history and in key positions. In general, I like the current batch that have been announced. So let's stand by. Hard to believe that the failure known as Joe Biden could sink lower into the sewer of history, but his handlers are sure giving it a try. We all know that the socialists and whack commies surrounding him are making the decisions. This was vividly documented by undeserved pardons and commutations recently. Adding further insults, Biden signed an order making more of the continental shelf along numerous states unavailable for drilling. In an odd deal, for some reason, Trump cannot easily undo this signature. I also note that Trump made some of this off limits during his first term. Some governors believe this may put their coastal areas at risk, despite the long and positive history of oil and gas exploration in the U.S. Then, of course, there was the Presidential Medals of Honor for George Soros, who has spent millions damaging America for some unknown reason, plus one half of a famous scumball couple, Hillary Clinton, and medals of freedom for greedy Nancy Pelosi and clueless disgrace Al Gore peddling his fake climate change story while getting rich. Biden has done so much damage to these awards, I believe the Trump administration will have to create new awards for the truly deserving in the future. Biden blocked Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion bid for U.S. Steel, claiming the deal could hurt national security. My regular listeners know that I'm very concerned about the 25 years of mega mergers in the U.S. However, there are exceptions. I mentioned recently when Spirit Airlines filed for bankruptcy when the JetBlue acquisition was blocked. That an exception could have been made in that case. I have mixed feelings about U.S. Steel. First, I hate to hear a U.S. company as iconic as U.S. Steel being owned by a foreign company. At the same time, Japan is a solid ally of the U.S. I have to wonder if some creative deal-making could have helped this deal go. The rationale for blocking the merger, including a national security review led by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS. The committee reviews investments for national security risk. Despite the issue being promoted as saving the company and its heavily unionized workforce, it was reportedly opposed by unions. Trump also opposed the merger from the campaign trail, but did not suggest alternatives. Despite failing at its only objective, the joke known as Judge Merchan sentences Trump 10 days before his inauguration. This is a case that took alleged misdemeanors that the feds refused to prosecute and that are now untimely and were spun into 34 felonies. This has been an extraordinary effort to stop Trump from becoming president. The only positive is that Trump can now appeal, and perhaps a federal judge will step in and stop this harassment. The order of an unconditional discharge sentence is usually when the crimes are insignificant, a misdemeanor, or less serious felonies, and where there are other extenuating circumstances. The suit has been done untold damage to the New York legal system, and I have encouraged the Texas Bar and other bar associations to no longer extend reciprocity to members of the New York Bar. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau announces his resignation. The world went crazy when Trump took on Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Greenland in just a couple weeks. In fairness, Trudeau was a goner before Trump took office with ratings among Canadians below the dismal rankings of Biden. I have strong ties to Canada, and even the liberal-leaning people I know were done with this failure. Still, it was interesting that he did visit Trump before resigning, And I do not expect Canada to give up its nation status. Your intrepid host is what some would call a teetotaler, or someone who does not drink alcohol. The U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy announced that alcoholic drinks should carry a label warning consumers about their cancer risk. Alcohol consumption increases the risk of developing breast, colon, liver, and other cancers. Murthy also recommended guidelines on alcohol consumption limits to be revised in terms of the number of drinks for adult men and women. This would be in addition to current warnings on birth defects and impairments when operating machinery. The report stated alcohol consumption is the third leading preventable cause of cancer in the United States after tobacco and obesity, increasing risk for at least 7 types of cancer. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. Please subscribe on your favorite platform.